And I will call the meeting to order. All board members are present, and it doesn't look like we have any student reps tonight. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and the first thing is to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion by
Second.
Lisa, second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we move on to the organizational items, which the first one is the oath of office. Let's see, we have a copy of that.
It was in front of you.
Yeah, right here.
Okay. So we're just reading the part in yellow.
Yeah, you read the part in yellow and then they repeat at the bottom. There should be a part in red. That they
Okay, since we are on camera, we should probably do this front here.
We can do it at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. It is an honor that you were elected to guide the education of the Rocori community's children. As you accept this office, you assume a tremendous responsibility as a director of our school district to fulfill the duties delegated by the Minnesota legislature. These duties and responsibilities place you and other members of the school board in a position of being both morally and legally responsible for equitable, quality education of every student in the Rocori district. In carrying out this responsibility, you are asked to engage in your role with vision, structure, accountability, and advocacy. The board, with extensive participation of the community, envisions the community's educational future and then formulates the goals, defines the outcomes, and sets the course for the public schools. Board members must strive to work together with the superintendent and educational staff to lead the district toward fulfilling the vision created. Board members must work together to foster excellence for every student in the area of academic skills, general and specific knowledge, citizenship, and personal development. So now we ask the newly elected board members to please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I.
Aye.
You want us to just keep saying the whole
Yeah.
thing? Okay.
We can do, or well, yeah,
Ready?
let's go.
I do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota. I affirm that I will discharge faithfully the duties and responsibilities of the office of school board member of Rocori School District 750 to the best of my judgment and ability.
And the last one.
Having signed the acceptance of office and oath of office, I hereby publicly affirm my commitment to the oath of office.
Okay. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready to move on to our organizational structure part of our agenda. First thing we need to do is elect officers, and we'll be electing 4 offices: the chair, vice chair, treasurer, and clerk. And we'll start out with nominations for chair. And I'm going to jump in because I want to nominate Lisa.
Should we just nominate?
Yeah, are there any other nominations?
I would nominate Kara.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any, I have to ask this officially 3 times. Are there any other nominations? Okay. Then we'll need to vote. Scott, generally it's just by voice vote, right?
Generally, that's how we've done it. You
Okay.
can choose different if you would want.
Do you, either one of you want to kind of tell us if you want to do this or not before? I don't want to, what are you, can we ask what your thoughts are about? Yeah.
Is that okay to answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm absolutely willing to serve in that capacity. Yeah.
I mean, I would be willing to do it as well. So I mean, but yeah, I mean, it would be an honor to be in that position. But
Okay.
so
That's it. I mean, I guess, is there any, either one of you feel, you know, you guys have been here together for 4 years, is there a thought process or just either one of you would be okay with
I know Lisa's done some work with Robert's Rules of Orders and understanding the process, the voting procedures, and the motions that need to be made in that. I don't know if you're quite as familiar with that.
I mean, somewhat, yeah. And I certainly could obviously continue to work on that. But I mean, I think Lisa would be great at the job. I think I would, you know, my viewpoint of chair is that you're really, it's not really that different of a position. You're running the meeting and you're helping, you know, working with Scott to set the agenda, and which is something that, you know, the board kind of does through conversations as well. So I don't see it as, I see it, that's kind of how I see the role. And obviously there's other details as far as if, you know, there's a spokesperson or which is in the policy. But that's how I see the role, I guess.
I just know that sometimes the chair needs to be a little more flexible with coming in during the daytime for signing things and meetings and things like that. Not that you're not flexible, but I know you got some young kids that sometimes make it a little bit trickier. I know Lisa's maybe a little more flexible.
Usually, with the exception of a couple of days, I can usually flex at some point. So, yeah, I mean, open either way.
Okay.
We need a chair, and so I know typically when there's more than one nomination, it would go either with paper. You can do it, but we have to sign our name. It can't be.
Can't be anonymous.
Right. Or we could do it as a roll call, and then you just call out. So however you want to handle it.
Everyone okay with roll call, or would you prefer paper?
I'm fine.
Okay, so make sure either one of you want to do it, I guess.
Well, let's vote. We'll start with roll call. Shannon?
I guess trying something new. I don't know, Lisa, if you've been in that role before, but
I have not.
And I'm assuming Carrie you have not, but I guess I would say let's see where Kara could take it.
Okay. Lisa?
I will vote for myself.
I'll vote for Kara.
I'll vote for Lisa.
I guess I'll vote for myself.
And I vote for Kara.
Okay. So Kara? I believe this is the chair.
Should I move seats?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. Where the chair sits.
Absolutely.
Could have just had you as arm wrestle, right?
And actually, we didn't have a second on that, so we've got a point of order. I'm not sure that's how it's listed on here.
Okay. My understanding
I
is
don't think
that
we
there's no
actually
seconds required on nominations.
Right.
I don't think we need it once. Okay.
It would be just if you were voting to cast a ballot.
Okay, perfect. So actually a nomination. I don't know how to fill this out. It'll be okay. Well, I have the roll call. That's the most important part, right? Okay, perfect. Congratulations. Thanks, Lisa.
All right, so then the next order of business is for office of vice chair. So, just calling for nominations then again? Okay, so I'd like to call for nominations for vice chair.
I'd nominate Lynn.
I would say that's the position you're in right now, right? I would second that. If we need to do that, I would agree to double nominate you.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? So, if there are no other nominations, I don't know that we need to vote, or do we?
You usually cast a unanimous ballot, and I think you need a motion and a second to do that.
So I'll make a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Lynn for vice chair.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All in favor? Thank you. This is gonna take a little bit. Appreciate the grace. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, so now I'd like to discuss the office of treasurer. Are there any nominations?
Want to nominate Jason?
I would second that nomination.
Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Would someone like to make a motion to cast a unanimous?
Make a motion to cast a unanimous ballot.
I'll second. Motion, I forgot this part last time. Motion by Lisa, or motion by Lynn, second by Lisa. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Do you okay?
Yeah.
Motion carries. Oh yeah, I suppose we could pass it.
No, that's
You didn't
okay.
say it, it was
No,
fine.
that's fine, that's fine.
Everybody-
I guess
you just
if
gotta-
you nominate Lynn for vice chair, that's what you get. No.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So now we can talk about the position of clerk. Are there any nominations for the position of clerk?
Nominate Lisa.
Okay, I'd second that.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Would someone like to make a motion for unanimous
Motion to
ballot?
cast a unanimous ballot.
Oh, second?
Lisa made Lynn made the motion. Sunny. Oh, Shannon seconded, sorry. This is gonna take some getting used to. I think I'm a little bit nervous. Oh, it's on camera too. Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. So the next order of business is committee assignments. So page 10. So I know that in previous years have we always decided at this meeting as far as committee assignments? Or I've kind of thought that Nadine took all the input, because I remember seeing her emails of my favorite,
Well, I think when there wasn't an election in December, lots of times she would say, think about it and let me know what you're planning, and then we still did it at the first meeting, but we talked about it or gave her our thoughts ahead of time.
So can we say those committees that we're interested in?
I think that would make sense, and see who's interested, because if there's only 2 or 3 people interested in each committee that needs 3 people, it's like, okay, that works.
Right.
If you need a paper copy to track things instead of just be like,
Oh, that'd be helpful.
Did you?
We pass them.
Oh.
You grab one and then,
Oh.
that's okay.
Well, do you want me just to start and say which ones I think? We'll just go around the table?
Well, I had kind of some thoughts about how to organize this. The first page is kind of they're the board committees, and so it's more influential, I would say. So I think it makes sense to do this, because we have 3 new board members and 3 old but we're not old. Old board. Existing? Yeah, existing, thank you. Existing board members. So I was thinking that it would be nice to try to balance it as far
Have
as.
someone who's has experience with some people that are.
Yeah. So, I was kind of thinking about that, and I, for one, am happy to get off of certain committees and go on to different ones, if that's something that would interest you. So just putting that out there too.
Yeah, I would agree that if it makes sense, we want some experience, but we also would like to see you three be able to use your knowledge other places if
For
possible.
the most part, the three of us haven't been all on the same committee.
Well, not all three of us.
No.
No. So there'll be
There'll be
openings for
some
everything.
right.
There's openings on each of the committees.
So, yeah. So I don't know, does it make sense to just kind of talk about negotiations first and
Yeah.
go down? Okay, so you're existing on
And
negotiations.
I would really like to stay in negotiations if I could.
And I think that makes sense.
I would like to be on negotiations.
Okay.
I second that she should be on negotiations.
Yeah.
Based on what experience you've talked about, I think you'd be a real asset. And I guess, I was just wondering, Jason, are you interested in being on negotiations just because of your experience with the hospital and working in a large corporation? Sometimes it's nice to have a mixture of people that see what's going on, and you could represent what's going on in like government and larger company, and I'm in a small business, and we all have different perspectives on what's happening out in negotiations and
That's fine with me.
salaries and.
I guess the only one I felt strongly about was policy review, being on that, but that's the other ones.
I think you can be on that too.
So,
I just wonder if it could also possibly be beneficial to have Shannon on it just because he's been on the other end of that.
That would be the only thing that I would say is
As a
that,
teacher?
It might give some comfort because they at least can feel like I understand where they're coming from. I don't really, I think, and I would agree that's maybe the only, other than that, if it's something you feel that you want to do, there's other ones here that I would be more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when we are in negotiations, all of us do talk about, the direction. We have closed board meetings and we talk about the direction we think negotiations are gonna go. So we set kind of a plan on our expectations on the issues that are important to us, and then, issues that we expect to come up. So the full board is always involved with the discussions, and, we try and get input from whoever's not on the negotiations.
So, I guess my experience, I would assume that in those closed sessions for labor negotiation strategies, the full board is discussing what kind of the authority is for the smaller negotiation committee in negotiations.
Right, yeah, and giving us kind of the guidelines of, like, these are what we'd like to see you accomplish in negotiations. And then usually we come back and say, okay, after our meetings, here's some of the other issues that have come up and where we think we need to go to settle.
Maybe I don't know if you've thought about negotiations at all, or if you guys
No, I would only do it if it was what we all thought was best.
Yeah.
If you have some desire.
I just, based on the recommendation, I can see the logic in that, and that makes sense. So if you feel that skill set, I want to bring a skill set, I don't want to just be on there just to be on there for a person. So if that's a skill set that you find valuable, I can definitely do that. So.
It is a pretty, I've never served on that committee, but I do know it's a significant time commitment, and it does include additional pay compensation.
There's
If you want
additional
to talk about that.
compensation. One of the issues is that we do end up having daytime meetings, especially through the summer. Now, what we usually do is try and look at everybody's calendar, and I don't know how much flexibility both of you have for that, but we meet with the teacher negotiators, because the major negotiation that we have to deal with is the teachers. We also deal with the paraprofessionals, but that usually is a little bit more spread out, and that usually is daytime too, because they bring in an outside negotiator who generally works during the day. With the teachers, we have a little bit more flexibility. There are times we've met, like late afternoon, especially when school starts. During the summer, we try and get a few, at least half days in to get some of the bigger items out of the way.
How much notice do you?
I think Shannon would maybe be more a little bit, I don't know, available during the day or not.
Well, I'd be more available. I mean,
Yeah.
probably. I mean, as far as I can set my own schedule. But I do agree a little bit with them that you might have some input from a bigger, I mean, I don't know if you're involved with those, if you know how those contracts work and stuff, but my only experience would be what it would be like on the teacher side. I mean, and then that may give some comfort there that they can talk in whatever language it is that makes them feel better in that one little setting. But so if you're okay and it's something that you feel you can do, then I would do it. But if you don't think that'll work with your schedule, then I would do it.
Regardless of who, I mean, I think it still comes to the big board, so we'd still have that as a resource, so.
It does require additional training too, not that you would, or not require, but.
There's a negotiation session coming up that the MSBA is putting on. It's
Actually
attached.
in March for our area, but it's attached in our.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave it up to you now. Well, I mean, if you're okay with the time commitment, then I'd say do it.
I mean, yeah. Strategically, obviously there's a strategy there, so having a former teacher on there seems like it could be a good strategy, but it could also put you in a difficult position, so I guess I don't know.
Yeah, just depends on your relationship with the people that are negotiators.
So how do you feel like it could be a really good benefit, or?
I mean, I approach it like I approach everything in my life, is if you're fair and you're consistent, whether they like it or not, they'll get over it and they'll understand that you're being fair and consistent.
Yeah.
So I guess I wouldn't be afraid of that. But I do think that you might have a perspective that could help. So I think it really comes down to if you feel comfortable with the time and
So how often are meetings, like if they have negotiations, like it's once a week? Or?
No, at the most we would do every other week in the summer, but usually it's been, say going through the summer, maybe 4 to 5 meetings at the most. Like I said, most of them last time around were half day, where we'd meet.
We typically started with 2-hour sessions, and we did some 3s depending on.
Yeah, at the most.
So, do you guys
Sure,
have?
I can do it.
Okay. So then Lynn, Sunny, and Jason for negotiations. Policy review, so Lisa's on that committee currently. Would you like to continue?
I would be fine with stepping away from that
You
committee.
would?
Okay.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
Okay. Okay. So you've expressed interest.
Yeah.
I would like to be on it as well.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, are you okay with that, Jane?
Yep.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
Right, and
I'm on policy committee and it's just not for me.
And I
I'm
think,
sorry.
yeah,
Too
our
much wordsmithing.
experience, we've got a lot of background. in that,
Yeah, I
so.
think you guys would be good at it. Okay, perfect. School assignment appeals. So I'm not on that committee.
I'm currently serving and I would like to continue on that one.
Okay.
The other thing, I actually was wondering if it would make sense for for you to be on it, because lots of the times it's an issue of Richmond or Rockville students coming here or there, and since you are a resident of Richmond, maybe that perspective might be good.
Yeah, I'd be happy to serve on that committee. Unless somebody else really wants it. You're not on it.
I'm not
You're
on it. and
Okay.
I've done it, but I don't need to.
Mike and Nadine have been on it.
So, but
Does it require 3?
Yes. So,
Do we
anybody
have
else?
3 left?
We've had 3 on that for quite some time.
Okay.
It's typically one
meeting.
meeting
One meeting
in August,
in
that's it.
August.
And it's usually late afternoon, early evening, just because of parents' work schedules. And it's, I think in the past, maybe 2 hours max.
It depends on how many families we have.
I think that's the most I remember.
I'll do it. They got a lot of stuff going on in the policy negotiations.
All right. Then, so we have Lisa, myself, and then Shannon for school assignment appeals. All right, transportation, who's on that currently?
I think Mike was.
I was on it when we had it as an ad hoc, but I haven't, either we haven't met or I haven't served, and
I believe it was you, Mike, and Nadine.
okay, and then, because I
And we haven't met for quite some time.
I would be happy to serve in that.
Okay. But it hasn't met for a while then? So,
And if you need somebody on that one, since it doesn't meet very often, I can too. 'Cause I know both of the transportation contractors pretty well.
Okay.
and
Well, even though it doesn't meet, we probably should have somebody that's new
Yep.
yeah.
on there. So if, again, you guys, if it doesn't meet, then I might as well. Either one of you.
He's going to take all the ones that don't meet often. I see how
No,
this is
what I was gonna say is it may be one that might work out for one of you because it's not very intensive. It sounds like it anyway. I mean, does it?
The only question I have is, how often is the finance committee meeting, and if I'm treasurer, is that sort of by default, you should be on the
Yes.
finance committee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
As
So,
needed though, that
yeah,
is.
so,
I've been treasurer for a year, and we've met once, I think.
okay.
Unless I,
So, that's the one I thought, the
Yeah.
third one that I thought I'd be
Yeah.
on would be finance, so.
okay. So then, maybe, should we leave this one blank and then
Until I see where
see
the
where
rest-
everything falls, because this is kind of a flexible one. Okay, facilities and grounds. Mike,
I'd wanna.
you'd be interested in it. I think that would make sense. I mean, if you're into more of the sports stuff, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of
I would say that would be a good one.
conversations around facilities as fields and
I think that's part of it.
it's part of it.
It's all campuses.
It's also roofs and,
It's roofs
Yeah,
and,
no, she's on the right track.
yeah.
I was in the gym though at the wrestling tournament and the system does not work very good. Can't hear. I just like, so whether we don't want to use it or not, it was stuff. But no, I think I understand that, Lisa. I mean, it's obviously there's lots of buildings, unless there's 3 other people that really want to be on there.
are you guys, you're
no, I'm
okay,
fine.
you're okay, and you're okay with not being on it?
Yeah, I've been on it in the past. I do not need to be on it.
Okay, I like being on that committee, but if somebody really wanted it, I'd be willing to step down too, so if,
I've been on it and I'll continue if
Yeah.
needed, but if
Yeah.
there's somebody else that is really looking.
I think we got our 3 then.
okay, all right.
Shannon, Kara, and Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so for facilities and grounds, it's Shannon, Lisa, and Kara then. Finance committee, 3 people, we have Jason. I was on it because I was treasurer, but who else was on it? You were Lisa.
I was.
And Nadine. So, is anybody interested in that?
I would be.
You would be, okay. Lisa, do you want to stay on that committee?
I can,
Okay.
if needed, otherwise I've already got 3, so
Okay.
if somebody else.
Okay.
It doesn't matter,
Oh, yeah.
because like my school,
Yeah.
the
And-
school assignments doesn't meet very often. but-
And I only have 2, so I'll take it if that's.
So you're
since I'm
on?
Since I'm on it. No, I'm fine if you really wanted it, but I'll just take it if.
So then you can put me on the transportation because I only have 2.
Okay, perfect. And then Rocori crowds is kind of all. Okay, so that rounds out the kind of the bigger committees. So then going to kind of the internal district committees, there's teaching and learning, curriculum instruction, RTI, staff development, and those are kind of all under the CIA umbrella. Are you guys familiar with these committees to know a little bit about the differences between the two? You're all of them? So teaching,
Talk about it.
yeah, I can talk about it quickly, but teaching and learning is kind of the umbrella committee, and then curriculum and instruction is one pillar, RTI is another, and then staff development is another. You're currently on staff development. They meet at 7 a.m. on Fridays, which for the previous board, myself included, had a hard time making that time work consistently.
So I was on curriculum and instruction.
And you were on curriculum instruction. And I was on RTI, but I never was able to make it.
I would volunteer myself for staff development.
Okay. I'm assuming
I'd like to be on one. It would be good to switch to a different one.
That's what I was thinking too. I was on curriculum, but I'd like to take something else just to
yeah.
have a better understanding.
Okay. RTI is kind of more data testing, stuff like that. So I don't know if somebody has a specific interest in that. And curriculum's pretty self-explanatory. So Lisa and Lynn, you'd both like to be on committees. Do you guys have, if you want to switch Lisa, then you would be on RTI. If Shannon takes staff development.
Yeah, I can do that, or teaching and learning.
Okay. Okay.
Either one do curriculum.
Okay. So Lynn for curriculum, Shannon for staff development, and Lisa's flexible. So does anybody have a particular interest in, because I felt like this was something that was talked about at the forum a lot, was standardized testing and stuff like that. So I don't know if somebody has a particular interest.
I'll take the RTI.
Okay.
I would do the teaching and learning.
Okay.
What is the technology, what time does that meet?
That's at 3:15. And I've served on that. It used to be a morning meeting, but they've switched it this year to the afternoon. It's a great committee.
Once a month. Is that during the school year too?
Just during the school year.
Outside of, not during the summer.
Just the school year.
Said that wrong.
All of these are.
Like, I don't think we
Right.
met in December. I don't think we did. We met in November.
So need one
I'll
for
probably
technology and one for teaching.
I'll probably just do teaching and learning because I feel like some of my other stuff is gonna.
Oh, I thought you said you wanted to do teaching and learning.
Yeah, but there's
Oh, sorry. Okay. So Jason for teaching and learning. And then technology, Lisa, did you want to continue that?
Yeah, you sure can.
Okay. Community ed. Lisa, you're on that committee currently?
I am currently
Is
on
that
that.
something that you want to keep doing, or? Or somebody particularly interested in it?
I guess I would want to know if anybody else was
I
interested.
would, if you feel like you're making progress and we've got a new person there and you kind of know what's going on, and I get it.
I think either way would be perfectly fine if you've got an interest in that. With some of the things that we're going to hear later tonight, with the report with the wraparound care, and depending on where we go on that, it's not just the activities, but it's going to be a little bit broader, potentially.
So I'm gonna let you make a decision. You want to be on it or not? If you want to stay?
Go ahead. I mean, if you have an interest in it, definitely go ahead.
Okay.
Media reevaluation of resources. I'm not even familiar with that committee.
That one has met,
Once in my 15 years here.
I was going to say, I think twice that I know.
Oh, that's right. This is kind of the banned books idea.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but if a parent or staff member challenges any resources that we're using, this is the committee that decides if it's appropriate.
I mean, if I can do that, I haven't.
Okay.
Catastrophic leave.
I'd like to stay on that one just because it's tied in with negotiations.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that, or does anybody else?
Okay, sorry.
Catastrophic leave.
Oh,
You want catastrophic leave?
okay. Unless anybody else really have a strong interest? All right.
Who did media reevaluation?
Karen.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Catastrophic failure. Okay, so now we're down to ECFE Advisory Council. That is a committee that I've served on for 4 years. I really enjoy it, but I think it might benefit, I don't know if you guys have, if anybody has an interest in doing that. I think it could be.
What about, I mean, haven't you been involved with kind of some of these same things? Isn't that what, with this wraparound stuff, isn't that part of?
That's more community ed.
Yeah, that would be different.
Yeah.
Early ECFE would be more preschool and
It's more the family-based, right?
yeah.
Or the parents are part of the program.
Right. So, yeah, I believe state law requires us to have one. We meet about 4 times a year. It's a lot, like just updates on preschool enrollment and ECFE. I don't know if you have younger kids. I don't know if that interests you. Or if nobody else wants it, I'll keep it.
If you enjoy being on it, I would be fine with that, because meet and confer is going to be all of the negotiation committee, which is the next one.
That's right, okay.
It hasn't typically been just negotiators.
That's what it says on here.
Yeah, it does say that.
3 negotiators.
Well, maybe.
Most of the assignment, it hasn't been all, as Lisa says, it hasn't all. Because Lisa was a member this past year.
Okay.
Usually 2 of the negotiators have been there, but.
And then I think we did rotating for a while too.
I'd like to do the meet and confer, so I would pass on the ECFE.
Okay, well.
And I would like to stay on and meet and confer also.
Okay. So, meet and confer, so the one thing that I've felt, but for meet and confer and negotiations, I feel like if I'm not, because I've never been on either of those committees, I feel kind of out of the loop with some conversations. There's certain conversations that come to the board, I'm like, I've never even heard of this. So I know that it says negotiators, and I realize that you guys want to be on the committee, but I feel like minimizing the number of people that aren't on either committee assignment, in my opinion, is ideal. And I don't know if you guys have that perspective, or because you're not getting, I guess, direct information from teachers. So I don't know, kind of in the loop on that as much.
I guess.
What's your question?
So are you saying you would like to be on it?
No, I'm just saying
Split it up from the negotiations.
But I don't know if that's.
Okay, part of the reason the negotiators, at least 1 or 2 of us have stayed on it, is because a lot of times they're bringing things to meet and confer that are supposed to be in negotiations, and we need to be there to say that
That's a bargaining
is a bargaining issue, that is not a meet and confer issue. So,
Okay, that makes sense.
so there needs to be
Okay.
1 or 2 of us at least.
Okay.
But, I mean, if Sunny and I would do it, and you would, or,
And maybe
I don't know
that-
if Lisa wants to.
I would stay on unless you feel like you need to be
Yeah.
a little bit more in that loop.
But maybe it just makes sense to have maybe meeting notes and stuff, or I don't know. Maybe that's that's a simple solution.
They usually do minutes after that come to all of
Yeah,
us.
in fact, they're pretty elaborate.
They do a good job, and it always comes to the whole board, not just in our packet.
Well, then obviously I filtered those out or something, so I can do a better job of that. Okay, so then Lisa, Lynn, and Sunny, is that okay?
Sure.
I think we do already have one scheduled for.
It's typically the second Tuesday, or second Wednesday in February.
Are we gonna get, like, once we know who's on what committees, are we gonna get, like, when the
Yes.
meeting times are? And okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, although sometimes the committees haven't been real good at updating when a new person joins it, so we might need to make sure that they get it, because I know for a while, technology was sending it to the wrong person.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would just ask that as much notice for my own schedule. I've got work commitments scheduled out far into the year already, so as much notice as possible would be appreciated.
What do we do on ECFE?
Oh, I'll take that, unless somebody wants it. I still have a 2-year-old, so it's probably most appropriate for me. Okay. Community Finance Committee.
That looks like it's me.
Yep, so that's Jason. Booster Club. I am the Booster Club currently. I'm happy to keep going to meetings if somebody has a strong interest in doing it.
If you want to keep doing it, do it. I mean, I hear most of it anyway, just from the people that I'm around, and
Okay.
so I think it'd be good to have someone there that's not maybe in the loop as much.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I'll keep Booster Club then. Senior Center Board.
Meeting time is kind of screwy for most of us. Monday mornings at 9 are not a good time for me to wait.
Is that non-negotiable the time, or could that be changed, or why is it 9
That's
o'clock?
when
That's when they meet.
It's just
Senior board meeting.
They're senior citizens and choose to meet then.
Okay.
I'm in. That's good.
What did you say?
I'll do
You'll
it.
take it.
Unless Lisa really wants to.
Nope, I can't do Monday mornings at that time.
Okay. If Monday, typically we've had all board members go to those.
Yeah.
What is fifth Monday?
Oh, good.
This started, I'm trying to think of the gentleman that was involved with the area planning organization. He brought up probably 20 years ago that when there's a fifth Monday, no governing board has a regular meeting scheduled. So he found that as long as it was open, it would be a way to bring together county, city, school district, township. We sometimes have the legislators there. So we've gone to only having usually 2 per year, because there's usually 4 fifth Mondays in a year, but lots of times they end up like right after Christmas or something. But we get together with, right now, the townships are not real active, but usually it's the school district. Most of the time we've had somebody from the county there. Most of the time we've had members from Cold Spring, Richmond, and Rockville, and the Wakefield Township usually comes. And then, like I said, the legislators were at the last one we had. And then we just talk about things we have in common or that we're working on. Sometimes, for example, if we're planning on going to the voters for a levy, we mention it there so that anybody else that's also going for a building project knows, what governing bodies are doing that. Or sometimes, not so much for us, but some of the others, they've been able to combine projects. So if Richmond and Cold Spring are both doing tarring projects, and they're going to be on roads that are contiguous to each other. It's like, oh, as long as you want to tar that road, we'll tar this one, we'll bid it together, and maybe we get a better deal. I think we actually use some of the, I think Ken sometimes talk to the city if they were having somebody come in to seal coat. It was a good time for us to get bids on seal coating. So it's, like I said, a good way to share what's going on in the other governing bodies so that we know what's happening in our community at that level.
So do we need to?
Is it an evening meeting?
Evening. They're usually 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, they bounced around quite a bit.
Depends on which group is hosting it. If it's at the township, it's later, because they usually meet later. If it's one of the city ones, sometimes we meet at like 6:30 or 7.
The next one is actually at the end of January, and then the two for 2017 will probably be January and October, I think.
Come to think of it, okay. I will be out.
May is one date, but it falls on Memorial Day.
So then we never do it.
So then the next date, I believe, is October, and then December, but they won't meet in December.
And I know what, I will be gone for the January one, because I'll be out of town.
So we need 2 official designees?
We typically have 2, but then it's opened up to anybody else that wants, so that way 2 people know that.
It's kind of, they should try to make it.
Yeah.
Okay. I can do that committee if somebody else, does anybody have an interest in that? I don't know, Sunny, that might be good for you.
Yeah, I can do it.
Does anybody else have an interest?
When I'm around, I'll.
Oh, yeah, I
It's
forgot, I'm
just-
sorry, yeah.
It's just, I know I
Yeah,
may be
yeah,
missing
this particular one.
this particular one that's coming up.
Okay, so I'll Sunny and Lynn then, and then,
Okay.
okay, or I can go. Let's do Sunny and Lynn. Safe routes to school, one, that was Mike.
Yeah, I would be interested in that.
Okay.
And that usually meets during the daytime too, right?
Yes,
I'm not sure, does it?
typically.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with that? Anybody else?
I just didn't know if you wanted somebody who's on transportation or if that's not,
It
doesn't matter.
might make more sense for
I am on
facilities and
transportation.
Yeah, I didn't know who was, I was trying
And
to look
facilities
back.
and grounds, so it's kind of-
And that would make sense.
Okay, C, Schools for Equity and Education, that's kind of our lobbying organization that we work with.
That usually meets in, I was gonna say St. Paul, but it's not, it's Roseville or whatever. means it on.
It's actually on Industrial
Right off the
Boulevard right on
Yeah.
35W.
Yeah, whatever that, that's
So,
not
is
sexy.
it a Ramada or a?
Ramada,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
So if somebody had a particular interest in like legislative stuff, Lynn's,
I can stay on it, but if somebody, and it does list that we can have 2 people. I've enjoyed it. I've been on it since we've been part of it. I was, usually they have school board members serve as president, so I was on their executive committee and I was their president for a year, and I was also on their platform legislative committee that writes the platform, so I've been involved with it for quite a while. I think it's good for other people to also learn about it, because the longer you're on here, the more you feel that our hands lots of times are tied by what the legislature does to us. So I think it's important that you understand that lots of times if we're not down there lobbying the legislature, they impose things on us that are hard for us to deal with. And we probably dealt with that through the county.
does anybody have, and I can be the second person unless somebody has a strong. Okay, I'll take that, Lynn and I. Minnesota State High School League. Now that was Nadine, so I don't know if,
I would like to do that.
okay.
Somebody,
Yeah, I think that would be a good fit. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, Shannon for the high school league. MSB Legislative Liaison.
That one really doesn't meet, they have my email and they send me updates on what's going on, but
Okay. Should we just keep Lynn then as the designee?
we can share those emails that come through, because when the legislature's in session, they send weekly reports. They also have, I think it's usually on a Monday, that they do a webinar when you can listen to the lobbyists talk about the issues that are going to be dealt with that week. We can pass all that information on, so anybody else that's interested can get it too. But yeah, you can just put my name on it if you want to.
Okay. So I'll put Lynn down for that. Stearns County Family Collaborative.
And they actually have more recently changed more to quarterly. It says once a month or less. At one point when they had quite a bit more money, they were meeting monthly. The collaborative has a lot less money at present, so they meet quarterly. And there are 2 levels of it. One is kind of the governance council, and that actually Stephanie Hillman is our representative, and this is the operations council, and that usually requires a board member.
Do you know when those meetings are? Daytime St. Cloud, correct?
Yeah, usually they've been mid-afternoon, 2 o'clock, often at the Stearns County facility by Fleet Farm.
Oh, sure.
Often at 2 o'clock, but it doesn't have to be at 2. It just depends when they set it.
I could do that.
Okay, is that everybody okay?
Benton Stearns.
I'll do that.
You'll do that? Is everybody okay with that, or somebody with strong interest?
I think that would be a good fit for
I think
Jason.
yeah, I think we talked about that.
Right.
It'd be a good fit.
So, oh, that's it. Oh, is it? Yeah, okay. Alright, so is everybody okay with, I didn't really take a tally, but.
Got it?
Okay. So, committee assignments now, we're talking about board meeting format. So just talking about the time of the meeting, the format of the meeting. Do you guys have any, first of all, is just 6:30 on Monday, the second and fourth Monday of the month work for you?
That
guys?
works for me.
Works for me.
It's good.
Works for you guys? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a good time for me as well, but, okay. And then, are there any other comments about format? I mean, I guess I have one. The one thing that I really struggle with is getting board updates. So if a board update happens on a Monday afternoon, just because of my kids, the time of day with supper with my kids, it's really hard for me to get to the board update. So, I feel like I've missed some stuff, and it makes it, I feel like I'm not doing my best job if I'm not seeing stuff or able to read about it before the board meeting.
So I have a question. Okay, so agendas are posted on Friday by 4, right?
Thursday.
Or packed Thursdays by 4?
It's go out Thursday by 4.
Okay, so is the board, do we get an email that says they've been posted? Okay, we don't, it's not that we just have to go and remember every other Thursday to go look at it. We're prompted with something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would second that. I would like to keep, updates to a minimum. Obviously, stuff happens between Thursday to Monday, but as minimal as possible.
Usually it's like,
Typically, financial things are going to be very difficult to have on Thursday simply because of the internal processes. Monday is the best we're going to do on the financial pieces.
Yeah.
well, and,
cover all.
most of the time it's just the bills, and I mean, as treasurer, you'll be
Familiar with those by then.
checking those out. And
You have to review them, so.
so, I mean, I don't have a problem when that's added. I know there are lots of times I do have to download the flash drive when I get here because afternoons are just kind of crazy for me on Monday.
So how are the updates sent? Same thing, an email notice to the board? And then now that board packets are out for the public, will they be added to that packet?
Well, will what be added to the packet?
Whatever those updates are? So
Yeah.
what, yeah,
Because
yeah, okay.
we reprocess, so the same
So the
things
whole
that we
packet
did.
just gets
updated.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But just make sure, so the board packet is now on our regular site. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just have that comment. And the one thing that Barb does that I find super helpful is listing everything that's included. So if I see something in the email, the board update included this, that's really helpful for me, so I can both have a log of it, of what happened, if I need to go back, or if I see something really important, then I would try put on a movie for my kids or something. So that's really helpful for me. I don't know, does anybody else have comments about the board format?
I guess the one question was is that I think it allows for you to like delegate or appoint people to do some of the duties of like the clerk or the treasurer, and I didn't know what the historical practice was, or if we wanted to do that, or if it has been done, or just discussion about that component of the meeting and the responsibilities, I guess.
So meaning having someone other than the board potentially take our minutes, is that what you're
Or
kind of
other than
referring
the
to?
clerk, or
Right, that's what I meant.
or what can we appoint some of the duties, or would we want to do that, or I guess Lisa?
I think I would like to continue taking meetings. I
Okay.
feel that's my responsibility as a board member.
Okay.
I know Barb does a lot when it comes to elections. She prepares the meetings, or not the meetings, but the minutes.
Minutes.
She prepares the minutes, and so there's a lot that the district office staff is already doing. Same with the financial documentation. You need to review the bills, and
Yeah.
you're going to give the report, but all of that is already prepared. So I
Right.
think we've already delegated a lot, unless there's more that we want to talk about doing, but yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear on that. I think
Yeah.
there's some thoughts about that possibly.
So I think we just talked about whether or not, I'm hearing you say, Lisa, that you would prefer to continue doing
Absolutely,
it
yeah.
versus us looking at someone else doing it. And I guess if you feel that you've been able to manage both and it's not overwhelming, then
I don't think it is at all for this part.
I came in and signed a little bit with the elections and that, but Barb had everything prepared for that, that I needed to at that time.
I guess I'd be okay with it.
All right, moving on to item B4, board in service needs. So, talking about through MSBA, or I guess potentially another organization, having a board in service, which could mean a whole, I guess, wide array of things, but
I know I was one of the people that brought this stuff, some of the people would do, but we've done things in the past so that we get to know the new board members and you guys get to know us better as far as our priorities and where we're coming from on issues, because I think it's easier to work with each other when we understand, people's backgrounds and their priorities. And so just doing something to some kind of, I don't know, if you necessarily call it a team building or something where we can just share some of those, share our expectations of what we want to come out of our work on the board.
That's typically been like a day or a half day or a couple hours, or?
Couple hours.
Yeah, so based on request to do that, one of the things was I had conversation with MSBA, Katie Klanderud, who is the one that was doing the phase 1 and will be doing quite a bit of phase 2, I think, on Wednesday. She would be the person that she or Sandy Gunlock at MSBA would likely be the ones to facilitate a session. When I talked to Katie anyway, her suggestion was to, from their website, look up the developing mutual expectations piece, and as the paragraph and description says, it's really, it serves many different purposes. There are some base things that no matter what the conversation is, there are some base things that they'll talk through with it. Probably the governance model, or what is the role of the school board, some really basic things are the starting point for the conversation, and then they will actually try and connect with you in some fashion, either through the board chair or the chair and the clerk, or maybe a survey of each of you. It really depends on what they hear from the chair. But prior to meeting, they would try and get a little bit of information as to what we want to accomplish, and then after that base piece, they kind of flow into whatever it is that you want to do as a board. So the description is pretty broad. It's both for new boards and for, as it says, boards who are undergoing some stress in their relationships. But it's really flexible based on whatever they hear from us as to the scope of it. Tentatively, Katie, simply because she said that January and February are filling fast, when I gave her dates of things that we already have on the calendar, all of them were filled. She penciled us in for March 13th as our work session on March 13th. Her position is that she thought it would be really good, especially for new board members, to have a few meetings under your belt so you experience some things and then have some topics and ideas for conversation. So she was very comfortable with March 13th as an area. MSBA does charge $950 for a 3-hour session. She suggested that it either be the work session that night, and that be primarily what we do, or she said a lot of boards will schedule it like from 5 to 8 and, have pizza and something, or, just a light meal to be able to begin. And then if you have other board issues, they would really happen at like 8 o'clock. So that was information from MSBA. I had 2 other feelers out. I haven't gotten a response to one of them, so I'm not going to identify anybody in that case. I don't know if the person can actually do it or not because they haven't responded to the inquiry. The other, we have had some success in the past with Greg Van Dal, doing retired superintendent from Sauk Rapids Rice, who actually does a lot of this type of getting to know you type thing, and understanding relationship pieces, those kinds of things. He gave me a couple of examples of schools very recently that he's worked with on them. In fact, he felt they've gone incredibly well from his perspective, and he's heard good feedback from boards. As a side note to it, as a retired superintendent, he also helps facilitate superintendent searches, strategic road mapping processes, so he does some big picture things with districts yet too. He was not able to respond with a price for, again, he suggested a 2 to 3 hour session as well. He felt we would accomplish more if it were a session like that. His reaction was that he finds that your best experience is if you just block off like an afternoon and do an afternoon kind of retreat. But he was not opposed to using it like our work session, like MSBA has suggested as well. So those are the 2 that I can report on, but I do have one other inquiry out. I just don't have anything to report back on.
Well, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have a preference as to...
I would say whatever is the most economical and biggest bang for our buck and give us the information and that I would be a proponent of that, because I think we definitely want to understand where everybody's coming from, and if we can, especially for us new people, learning more about school board governance would be helpful too. So
yeah, I would lean towards the former superintendent. I mean, I've heard good things about him.
Great.
I mean, and I think he might give us a little different perspective than, not like they're not going to, but this is kind of what they do. Where he's going to maybe be a little bit more, what do we need to do? So I guess I would be more in favor to seeing if he'd be willing to work.
And he's willing, he just couldn't respond back in terms of, I know he can't do, he's not able to do the last meeting in January or the first meeting in February. He's already got commitments in other districts as well. So.
And I would agree with Shannon. I think we've been to phase 1, that's through this, and now we're going to phase 2 through this, so it'd be nice to get a little different perspective.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we've had Greg for other things here, and I like working with him.
He's done a great job for us.
Yeah, he's been good.
So should I make a motion to do I have to?
Well,
something I have
at
to
this
do
point,
next
if you, I'm hearing that you want us to explore that a little more. Again, I don't have a date from him.
Okay.
We would bring it back to you to confirm, and that's when we would
Do the motion.
do the motion.
Ask if he can stay under the price that you're trying to be
Just
right
don't
now.
tell them what that price is.
No. Sometimes when you're negotiating, you need to throw those numbers out there.
The thing that Greg would need to know from you, though, is an afternoon, like, if we were to look, and I'll just use the next board meeting, the 23rd, as an example. I know he can't do that day, but if we were to do like 3 to 6 o'clock in that session, and then take a little bit of a break and come back and do a 6:30 board meeting and continue on, is that something that you want me to explore, or would you rather have it be at the time of a regular meeting? And essentially then it's a work session, one of our next work sessions. I know he can't do February 13th, so we're probably talking March 13th again, but it's entirely up to you.
I'm flexible, but I don't know.
I can be flexible, depends on what date you pick to start at
I
3.
mean, there's benefits both ways, I think.
Yeah.
If we're doing a regular, one of our scheduled board meetings, then I would be flexible. If we end up looking at a different date, something outside of that, then
Yeah, or that was the other thing he threw out, was maybe you want to do it on a Thursday or a Wednesday, or Lynn is shaking her head no already, but.
Either the Mondays,
Well,
I
I
have
agree.
them
It
locked
needs
up
to-
on my
yeah,
calendar.
it needs to be either before our normal meeting
yeah.
on that day. I think that's what you're saying. right?
Yeah, because then I know that I usually, except for Monday mornings, I usually have that whole afternoon. Typically, I mean, it can change, but
And I would just need to know the date and have to check to see if I've got anything already booked.
So we would be looking at the earliest, the last meeting in February and or March 13th. But I can connect with him and see if any of those dates work. I know he can't do the next 2 regularly scheduled meetings. So.
And then maybe do a doodle, should we do a doodle poll for times and dates?
We can do that if we, once Greg knows if
Once
one thing or
once
the
we know
other
Greg's
works.
schedule, and then,
Sure.
okay. Moving on, item 4C, organizational consent items. So, our district policy states that we would have a single board spokesperson. It's strategic. I think it states it in our policy, but just to kind of have one voice from the board. So there's not a lot of,
And the policy says that that would be the board chair?
it says it typically is, I think.
Preferably. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And when we've used that has specifically been when we've had some emergencies going on, going back to when we had the school shooting and when we had some of the other crises that happened. It just is better if you have one person giving the official
I think
message.
that mostly defaults to Scott, but if the board would need to
Right.
speak.
There are times when it becomes an issue where they want to speak to somebody from the board, and so then you're saying that it would be the chair.
Does that work for everybody? This doesn't,
I mean, there are times they've called and tried to get responses from the rest of us too, and we just, at least I've always just said, please call the chair.
all right, authorization of signature plates. Is this something, it's an authorization, we don't need to vote on it, is that correct?
Yeah, actually, you need to vote on both of them, but usually do it by consent agenda, so you adopt them both at the same time.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did I miss this?
So we just need one motion to pass the organizational consent items,
Oh,
which
I
I will
see.
make that motion.
And I will second. Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, you call it, motion by Lynn, second by Lisa. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, sorry about that, I didn't quite see that. Okay, comments and requests from visitors. Is that where we're already at? Okay, well, is anybody in the audience that wants to speak? Okay. So nobody is here to talk to the board. Let's see. Okay, so consent agenda. The consent agenda includes approval of the minutes from the board meeting on December 19th. And then there was a special meeting just regarding finances, and that was on January 4th. So the minutes for those two meetings. It includes community memberships, so our Richmond Civic and Commerce, Cold Spring Civic, our Chamber of Commerce. Let's see, I think those are just the two organizations. There's also, included in the consent agenda is the employment. So Mandy Mosher for paraprofessional in the secondary building to replace Caitlin Teamer. Taylor Lemke for long-term sub for EL services at Cold Spring Elementary. She'll be covering for Gwen when she's leaving. Activities director is recommending Brian Altman for the winter activities event coordinator, which we approved the position on the 19th. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Motion by Lisa, second by Sunny. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, action items. Action item 7A, contract with a board member. Because the school district conducts business with the bakery, Cold Spring Bakery, it's necessary to adopt a resolution to do business to contract with a board member. The resolution included in the exhibit reflects the school district relationship with the Cold Spring Bakery.
And we actually have two of them because we do business with Shannon as well.
Okay.
So we have two resolutions, one for each.
Okay, so do we need to do anything to officially add that, or?
No, you will as you
Okay.
adopt the resolution.
Okay. So just a resolution then for the Cold Spring Bakery then?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, second by Shannon. And if this is a resolution, then we'll go one at a time, so.
Aye.
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 I think I have to abstain on this.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, all those, or motion carries then, or resolution carries. All right, and then the next one, which, let's see, it's on page 29. So the next one is to conduct business with Shannon. I have to go to the page back.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right.
Abstain.
Motion by Lisa, second by Sunny, and again, it's a resolution, so.
I'll abstain.
Okay, abstain.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, so action item 7B, superintendent goals. We had discussed the goals last meeting, and we tabled it until this meeting just to have time to make sure that we could go through them. And I know I saw that Scott had made some revisions. Were there any additional comments or?
Scott, on the goals that you submitted on page 37 or even the other pages, anything in red is what you've done since the evaluation, or?
Actually, it was based on the conversation that we had last week
Okay.
at the special meeting.
Okay. So that's current or new
The
things
red
that you,
pieces are new.
that you've
based on-
taken out of discussion and applied?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I guess I think they're good update to that. I guess I'd like to see a little more specificity, with some of the outcomes, like if it's like bring a proposed policy for social media, so that we've got that, and maybe that's what the intent of working with Brian is, to come up with that. But I guess that's what I was maybe looking for, like a little more specifics and what that working with Brian on bringing consistency to social media entails. And similarly with like the policies, I guess I'd like to see you know, some report on where we have opportunities for you know, to bring ourselves into compliance or some compliance issues potentially, and then an action plan for rectifying some of that. So I don't know what other people's thoughts are.
My thoughts have been to have things be a little bit more specific too, like specific, measurable, SMART goals, just because I think then, because your interpretation of what, you know, bringing policy process into current status could look different than what I think that looks like. And so I just think it helps us all be more on the same page, but I guess I don't.
So, okay, just so I understand. So under number 4, where it's talking specifically about policy, and then you go to the next column, and those are the 2 items that work with the school board on new processes, and then work with the policy committee. You're looking for more in addition to that too, or does that kind of cover what you're thinking?
Maybe that's not the best example, because that is a little bit more cut and dry. Although, let's see.
Well, I'll step in here once, Kara. The curriculum, the back up to the goals of the personnel. I mean, I think now is our time, and we talked about a few different times about what is that position going to entail? How are we going to make that whole department better? Do we need to structure it differently, make it feel different to the people that we need to sell it to, which is our teachers? And we know for a fact that there's been issues with how they're using that department, how that department is getting information to them. So I think, you know, that's a huge one here, is not just finding someone that can do whatever the job it is that we think, but what is the job? And can we make some changes, you know, especially now that we're going through this? And I don't know, you know, how we fit that in there. I don't know if anybody else has any opinions on that. And I'm really just bringing in, without any knowledge of what you have all heard in the last years about it, just what we're hearing from the outs, you know, if you want to call it the outside, about how this department and the school has been operating.
Yeah, we've been hearing issues with that department ever since it started, so.
So yeah, I don't think we can get by that until we figure out what we're going to do to fix it.
So then going back, and I completely agree with taking a look at it and where do we want to go and setting that, completely agree with that. So when we're looking at superintendent goals right now, overall, the fact that we're addressing that area, I guess I feel is met in the superintendent goals. The process and how we're going to get there and what happens goes into the management piece that we do need to hear from, but as far as the goals overall, I think is what we're looking to approve or to discuss now. You know, we're addressing that in there, not necessarily the how, but the overall goal. If I'm, where we're at on the agenda, if I'm...
Yeah, I get it. I think what I'm hearing, you know, more specific is there a way for us to put a little more measurable piece there that helps us in the next 5 months say, okay, we've accomplished a very, you know, easy identifiable job description of how this is going to help us be better. You know, so I don't know that it's any different than what we believe is going on with that goal. We're just, you know, because those are things that you're probably doing that are not on here, but I think we're asking maybe...
Or the progress too?
Well, the progress, but I think right now we're in that spot where we need to hire that person.
Right, so the way I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do I have to address you to be able to speak? Okay. So, because the way I read this is the goal is to engage in the employment process for key personnel positions, and it identifies the curriculum director as one of those. But to me, I feel like there's a second piece to that before we finish that employment process, we figure out what are we looking for in that role. Is it still the same role that it always has been? Maybe, or is it something different? And so I kind of see that as the first step before we just go through the employment process and fill it. And then once we do go through that employment process, I think it goes to, you know, a plan for improving the relationship between that department and the teachers, whether that means
I mean, I'm not saying that there needs to be changes in one place or the other as far as what they do, but there needs to be a better understanding between the two of what they do and how they help each other. Does that make sense?
I think some of it's probably there. It's just making sure that we're not jumping into something by just accomplishing the goal of hiring somebody to fill the rest of the job.
Right.
You know, now we have a chance to make sure that we identify what went wrong, and is there something we can do right now before we jump into somebody else that maybe, you know, maybe it's an interim, you know, and these are, I think that you can come back to us, maybe it's an interim position, maybe it's a co-position between people that have been there and they work together to try to identify what the best thing is to do. You know more about what could possibly happen to help that get better. I think that's what I'm asking, is more in depth of how we can, she said better than I did, but what she was saying is how do we make sure that we do this the best way that we can. That would be one thing for me, that I think there could be some measurable things in there that it has to be a goal to make that better.
So sometimes, and part of the reason that they're written the way they are is to incorporate some of the flexibility with that, but sometimes you don't know the answers to a number of those questions until we actually begin the process. As an example, do we know if we're hiring the best person is kind of a question that I've heard over the last couple of weeks as we've met. And is this the best time to hire that person? Sometimes we don't know that until we actually post the position, begin receiving the applications, and are able to measure, do we have a quality pool of candidates or do we not have a quality pool of candidates? Sometimes timing matters, sometimes timing doesn't matter to the pool of candidates. Sometimes, and as I go back to some of the other positions, we've had contingency plans in the background depending on what we find in the pool of candidates. But if we find a good pool of candidates, we don't need to exercise those contingency plans, but those are things that, so looking at an interim piece, looking at restructuring other positions to make it work within there to accomplish the things that we need to do. So my question would be, how much of that detail do you need in there to know that I'm engaging in the goal, as opposed to, some of those things we may never need to use, but.
So I guess my experience has just been that if we have a key position vacant, before we start the posting process, we look at it and determine if it's appropriate to fill it as is. Are there issues? Should we be looking at changing what that role's responsibility, what that key position's responsibilities are? And so my experience has been to do that piece prior to posting. And so I guess I would just be looking for a little information on, have we done some of that evaluation?
Yeah, I think it's partly strategic too, in allowing everybody that's going to be affected by this, which is the teachers in our building, to see that it was a major concern and something went wrong, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we look at exactly what was that person supposed to do, how are they supposed to do it, did we give them the tools to do it, did we give them the right people to do it, and really, like I said, if it means interim, 2 people that are already there working to develop it, I guess I'd be looking for those sort of things from you, and what are we going to make sure we do right now to try to see some change. I think this is a great opportunity. We're kind of in it, so.
And maybe it's not spelled out specifically in the goals, but our expectation of you is to come back with some of that information to kind of keep us in the loop of where, what's been done, what are we looking at, what are your recommendations to the board on how do we move forward with that particular position. It could, down the road, it could be any position, depending on where we have people leaving it, but.
So, I mean, do we want to see more specific language, specifically in section 1.1, or do we leave it as is and we realize that this conversation will likely come back with more information? Or how do other people feel about it?
I think you don't have to change. I think ultimately the goal I'd be asking is let's make sure that we try to do everything we can to get it right, or at least attempt to make the changes necessary. Like you said, you don't know. There could be someone that's going to do a great job that's right there, but let's make sure that we turn every rock and make sure we try to do right. So I don't know, as long as you're understanding that that's what we're expecting out of that goal, which is saying to hire those best people, which I think we'd always expect those things. It's just, this is a very different situation because of the situation we're in.
Sure.
So,
and to me, that's in terms of the issue of governance and management piece, the first line to engage in the employment processes means working through all those things that are part of the entire picture to bring you the best recommendation. That's really how I envisioned that little phrase, but I realize it's not that specific in terms of phrase either.
I think that we just want to, I want to make sure that if my expectation is to have me bring a policy or a job description or whatever, and then you go through all this stuff and said I worked through it, and then that one piece that I was expecting, and so then I feel like you didn't do it, but you felt like you went through the whole thing. I don't want it to be like a mixed. I guess that's what I'm trying to avoid. Like you're not meeting my expectations, but yet you hired it, or maybe you worked with Brian on some policy stuff. I guess that's where the clarity of the goal would hopefully. So we're on the same page, I guess. But like Shannon was saying, I think we are on the same page, but it's just not explicit within that.
Yeah, I think all of the things that we just were talking about is what we'd expect out of that. However, I think being that we're talking about this and we're in the middle of the year and we can expand on some of the goals that you have, and we're in this situation, like we said a number of times, now is a chance for us to really reevaluate and take from that and just say, okay, how this just happens to be a really important piece, and maybe there's a way, and you can come up with some specific goals that are going to help us to get to the best direction for that department. And maybe somebody has some ideas for those, but I'm not expecting it to come up with them right now. But
is that kind of the main item? I would say that you guys are thinking for more specificity.
I will say I'm very happy to see the addition of working on communication efforts, both on an internal and external.
I did see that.
Well.
I knew that
So maybe we're over 6 months into these goals, and so this is kind of a formal adoption, and so maybe for now the language is good enough, and then next year when we work on the goals, or 5.5 months or whatever, I
think as long as we're under the understanding right now that, to me personally, making sure that we do right by what's going to happen in this department is a huge, it's been an issue, and we just.
And part of that you get is the reporting part, as Lisa indicated, that progress. And I realize for three of you it's a new format, so you haven't seen it play out. But part of that engagement comes out in that last column in terms of that's really how you measure whether or not things have been done is I tell you what I've done.
Through the progress.
In part, you see it as recommendations come to you as, with positions in particular, but it's about all the activity that we have around those.
And that you usually do a nice job of just enough detail here without being excessive, which I appreciate. But that a lot of times we will discuss a little bit, depending on what comes through. And so when I'm reviewing the board packet and I read through the progress on the goals, that sometimes is what would maybe prompt a question or something that I'm looking for that I end up hearing during the meeting that it's like, oh yeah, I had that question, totally answered it for me, I get that now. And so maybe I don't raise it at the very end, but, when we first see this, when you first see this in July, this is going to be blank on this side. And so I realize, halfway through we are coming in with numbers, but otherwise that third column is blank. Typically.
I mean, I'm fine with leaving them the way they are. I mean, we've talked about kind of where, what we see as some of the expectations. You've heard those. I don't know that we need to change the language.
No, I would agree. I would just ask that we make sure, I don't want to hear the same old. I want to make sure that, everybody involved in the process of moving this department in the right direction feels like they're part of the process. And ultimately, that's what all of this is. We're expecting that. I think that's what I would ask, that we make sure we do extra and special care in this particular situation.
I'll make a motion to approve goals as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Lynn, second by Lisa. Any further conversation? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, administrative reports. Page 38, I believe there was a report from Mark. You guys were able to read that.
One thing on here, number 4 on his report, so on page 39, the ALC students with the community partnership and the local greenhouse and the courtyard, I thought that was really cool. I thought that was just a neat kind of focus thing that I hadn't been aware of.
Okay, so any other comments? All right, upcoming events, page 40. I know that we got this list from Scott regarding Chamber of Commerce or Civic and Commerce, and then
Did this come through weird for anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So I'm looking at going, what does that do?
Just guess the time, right?
And then it was down.
Guess the day, guess the time.
I thought it was just Barb just trying to mess with us.
yeah, usually there's
It's like the third page down after the.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just wasn't put in landscape view or whatever.
And then I went down and I'm like, there's the time.
It's like match the projects. So at some point, if we can get that
On one sheet would be.
one sheet, we'll make, I don't know, if we pass this test, we're awesome.
So typically when we have these conversations,
Colorblind.
if somebody can't make a certain meeting, we would negotiate as far as I'll take that meeting, or as far as like Chamber of Commerce type stuff.
Well, and first one is,
Richmond Civic and Commerce.
Yeah, and I can make that.
yeah, and the Cold Spring Chamber is this week, Thursday. And
Thursday.
we'll be at
When you sent it out, we had some people in.
And we actually have 2 administrators that are willing to go, so we covered pretty well on Thursday.
Okay, so unless anybody has anything else, do we motion to adjourn? Somebody?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Lynn,
Second.
second by Sunny. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.